All right, we're going to take a look at the number line by taking a look at some problems. All right, so where would the square root of 20 fall on the number line? It turns out that the square root of 20 is a little bit more than 4 and a little bit less than 5. Because you see, it falls between the square root of 16, which is exactly 4, and it falls between the square root of 25. Excuse me, it falls between 16 and 25, the square roots of, and so this would be 4 on the number line, this would be 5 on the number line, so the square root of 20 would fall somewhere between 4 and 5. And there's that. So let's take a look at the next one. If you wanted to solve this problem, where would the answer fall on the number line? Well, turns out that negative 42 minus negative 42, if you had negative 42, you started off over here about negative 42, and you took away a negative, that's the same thing as a positive, and you would come to 0. I like to remember it this way, and that is that if I use the negative sign here to complete my positive sign over here, I now have a negative 42 plus a positive 42. That's the way I remember it. All right, the negative of square root 9, where would that fall on the number line? Well, the square root of 9 is 3, and this is all negative, so the answer would be negative 3. Pi halves, where would that fall on the number line? Well, turns out that pi, correct to 2 decimal places, is 3.14. It's an irrational number. It would go on forever and ever, but correct to 2 decimal places is 3.14 divided by 2. And so we could take a look at this and say it'd be about 3.5, a little bit more than 3.5. So it would fall there on the number line. Where would 77% fall on the number line? Well, 77% just means that it's 77 over 100. And 77 over 100, that's going to be less than 1, so it would fall about there on the number line. 300%, well, that's just 300 over 100, and that would simplify. We can cancel these 2 zeros and those 2 zeros. That simplifies to 3 over 1, and any number over 1 is just the same number, so the correct answer is 3. Where would negative 2 times negative 2 fall on the number line? Well, a negative times a negative is always a positive, and so negative 2 times negative 2 would be 4 on the number line. The square root of 50. Well, perhaps you already know that the square root of 49 is exactly equal to 7, and 7 would go about here on the number line, and so the square root of 50 would be just a little bit more than 7, so the square root of 50 would go about there on the number line, a little more than 7. Where would pi go on the number line? About there, a little more than 3.14. Negative 800% would be about negative 8 and would probably fall about there on the number line. 10 squared halves. Well, the order of operations tells us the first thing we need to do is raise to the exponent power because there are no parentheses. So 10 times 10, that's just 100. And 100 divided by 2, that's just 50. So 10 squared halves would go there on the number line. 90 times 1/3, well, that's the same thing as 90 divided by 3. And that would be 30. Negative 10 times negative 5. A negative times a negative is always a positive, and 10 times 5 is 50, so the answer would be there on the number line. Where would negative 2 1/4 go on the number line? It would go about there. A common mistake that people make when placing things on the number line is that you would say, oh, 2 1/4 would be about here. Well, that's what happens when you're on this side of the number line, but now we are 1, 2 1/4 away. 9 squared. That would be 81, and that's about where 81 would fall on the number line. Negative 8 squared. Well, 8 squared, and we're going to take the negative of that, will be negative 64. Negative 10 times the square root of 10. Well, we have a negative number times an irrational number. Square root of 10 is 3 and a little bit more, so we'll just say 3 plus. Now we have 10 times 3 and a little bit more. So we're going to be at 30, but it's negative, so we're going to be at negative 30 and a little bit. How many inches in 2 yards? Well, you need to know that there are 36 inches in 1 yard, so 2 yards would be 72 inches, and it would be about there. Your comments and suggestions are welcome and encouraged. You may write to me at alanmorris@yahoo.com.